New leadership set to take the reins in Washington. Joining us now are two of the possible contenders for top committee spots in the House. Congressman Paul Ryan, a young gun from Wisconsin. I probably wishes he never wrote that. And Congressman Scott Garrett of New Jersey, also with us, Senator By and Senator Gregg. What are you going to be, Scott? I got to look at you differently now, right?
No, you look at me the same way you always looked at me. I always wondered why you look at me.
Yeah, exactly. I've been looking at you. You've been looking at me. All right, Chairman of what is it? Capital Markets? Or?
Well, there's a potential for
that,
for something like that. Yeah.
And Congressman Ryan, what happened yesterday?
It was a great win. I mean, look, I think you heard the words by Boehner the right way. This was a repudiation. This isn't necessarily a validation of Republicans as much as it was a repudiation of the direction the president and his party have taken the country. And what happened yesterday, I'm still trying to get my Kindle to find out how many seats we've picked up. It was a repudiation. We got about 60 seats in the House, 6 seats in the Senate, and we're counting still. This is not necessarily, we love Republicans. This is change course, the country's on the wrong track.
Do you expect, you just said it's a repudiation. Who has that sunk in with anyone in a position of power in the Democratic Party? Congressman Ryan.
Can you say that again, Joe?
Yeah. Who is that sunk in with at this point? We've had guests on all morning. I haven't heard any one of them say this has been a repudiation from that side.
Well, let's see if they ended up learning lessons out of this or not. I hope that the president learned some lessons out of this. I hope that they understand that what they've tried to do the last 2 years is not what the American people want.
It's the economy. Congressman Garrett, they're saying it's the economy. It's pure and simple.
Yeah. You heard no. Senator By earlier said.
Senator By is
he doesn't count.
Well, he's more reasonable than some of the people I was just referring to.
My bad.
He is.
I'm not as optimistic that the administration has heard anything, because this is not just Election Day that this voice has been heard by the American public. We've been hearing this down in Washington for the last 2 years, basically from day one, from the days that the bailouts all began, from the cap and trade bill, which Speaker Pelosi twisted a lot of arms to pass, right up the health care bill. Literally millions of Americans were saying, don't go in that direction, focus on issue number one, which is job creation. This administration didn't hear for the last 2 years. I try to remain optimistic in all of these things, but certainly the track record of the last 2 years from leadership on the other side of the aisle has not been one to say that they're doing anything
Senator
wrong.
By, after Scott Brown, you said we should not go full bore with health. He's been an outlier in a lot of different respects over the past couple of years.
Well, it was pretty clear, Joe, putting the substance aside, and clearly some things needed to be done in health care, but politically it was just tone deaf because people wanted us to focus on jobs, the economy, and in deficit reduction going forward. I think, look, as a country, we have one of two choices here. We can either have continued gridlock and fighting, or we can try and find some principled ground on which to compromise to move forward. Neither side is going to get everything that they want. My guess is that President Obama will understand that, and that Speaker Boehner will understand that. The difficulty will be the most fervent parts of each party are going to resist that kind of compromise. So my question for Paul, I know cares deeply about this, maybe for Congressman with us here on the set too. Let's take Social Security, for example, entitlement reform. I think we all need to do something on that to get the finances under control. What, from your point of view, can be done on something like that?
Paul?
Well, when I think about Social Security, I think everything ought to be on the table short of payroll tax increases, because they just raised payroll tax increases as part of this health care bill. It's not good for economic growth. Shy of those things, I think anything should be on the table. Social Security, Evan, as you know this is pretty easy to fix. It's just a few dials you have to turn, and we can put that one on the road to solvency. That would be a wonderful thing if we could achieve Social Security solvency. It would buy us time and space in the credit markets. It would show that we're serious, that we're going to get our fiscal house in order. I just don't know if the president's going to come in this direction or not. I don't think what the voters asked us to do last night by basically repudiating this majority was, we want you to go a little bit more to the left, but not as much as we want. No, they don't want us going in this direction at all, I don't think. We need economic growth. We need jobs. That means low tax rates. We need sound and honest money. We need spending cuts, spending control, spending reforms, clear, transparent regulations, the basic economic building blocks to get this economy growing. That is not the direction this last Congress had. They want to go in a different direction. So I don't think they elected Republicans so that we can be slightly more efficient tax collectors for a welfare state. I think they elected Republicans. We screwed up a few years ago, and that's why we got dumped out of the majority. They elected Republicans to change the course of this country, to change the fiscal and economic policy of this country. And I understand people don't want to see this as a repudiation. If you just lost your majority, you'd rather blame it on policy, not on ideology, not on philosophy, because you don't want to acknowledge that your philosophy is not in keeping with the majority of Americans. Well, I don't think their philosophy is in keeping with the majority of Americans. At least the philosophy that the president and the current leaders of Congress took this direction.
Well,
moderates like Evan Bayh and people like us, there's plenty of room to compromise, to move forward. So we can compromise, not compromise our principles, but move in the right direction, and we'll see if we can get that done with this kind of divided government we've got.
Well, if you listen to the president in his recent interviews with Rolling Stone and with the New York Times Magazine, it was a communications failure. It wasn't about a repudiation of the policies.
If that's what they take out of this, then I think we're going to have a bumpy ride. If that's what they take out of this, then I think it's going to be a tough year. If it was
how bumpy?
These policies and ideas were great, we just didn't communicate them well, that is not what the message of this election was.
How likely is it, for example, that there's some kind of showdown over the budget, like we saw in '94? And if there's something like that, Congressman, would you take that as a symbol of you standing up for principle or a failure of Republican leadership?
Well, look, that happens in the summer or the spring. You start the budget in the spring, then you go through the summer with appropriations, then the fiscal year ends up in the fall. So we have a long ways to go before that plays itself out. It goes down to discretionary spending. By the way, domestic discretionary spending went up 84% over the last 2 years. We want to take a lot of those spending increases away. We probably will have an impasse on levels of spending, I would assume. Where that goes at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know if the president's willing to do the kind of entitlement reform that needs to be done to avoid a debt crisis in this country. So I don't see this as if we just give up and let the president go in the direction he wants to go, then we have given up on the American people. We will have given up on the people who just put us in charge. That's not what we should be doing.
We've heard a lot about kumbaya in the moment, and this is what we need to do here. If the Blue Dogs had problems and they were conservative Democrat, this whole thing has shifted even further to the right. Why wouldn't we expect this to get even uglier from here?
I think it is, and one of the reasons why it gets ugly is because everyone's always looking towards the next election, and so this time it was 2 years, and it's just 2 years down the road. So everybody's going to be looking, and it's not just a congressional race and Senate race, of course, it's a presidential race as well. But one of the things on what this administration can do, even before any legislation comes down the pike, as far as showing how can they work together, is on the financial services side. We have this I heard Governor Corzine say an 800-page bill. No, it was actually around 2,300 pages. And if you got into that, so much of those regs are coming down the pike right now. They're creating so much uncertainty in the marketplace. That's what is really holding things back right now. So this administration can get that done and give us some relief immediately.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us, Congressman. We appreciate it. And the senators are going to be staying with us.